Good afternoon. It's the last session of the day, so your main job is to stay awake for the next 3/4 of an hour, and then you'll all get a prize if you manage to do this. My name's Guy Grouse. I'm the Global Education Director for Kidzania, the very Kidzania which I am delighted to say will open in Doha next week. And don't tell anyone, but I think it'll be the best one. I have to be quiet about it, but I honestly think that we've got the right people to do a brilliant job. The education that makes a difference, 2019. It's an interesting topic. It's nice and broad, isn't it? Because we can all think of things that make a difference. I think in the end what makes a difference are people and their intentions and their love of children and their care for them. And then we're prepared to go the extra mile for some children more than others, and that's okay too. So I can't tell you, I am biased. I can't tell you how incredibly pleased I am to be here. I love working in Doha. I've worked with a number of colleagues here for a number of years, and I've enjoyed it every single time. And I enjoy the weather. I live in Sheffield in the UK, and if you've lived in Sheffield in the UK, then you know how much you need some sunshine. So thank you for the sunshine. Also, I'll be joined by some colleagues for questions and answers in a little bit, including, I hope I'm going to get this right, Khalud Abdullah Al-Manai, who is the Careers and Program Services Lead at the Qatar Careers Development Center. And Dr. Amina Hussain, who is the chief of everything at WISE. Yes, you are. And Ahmed Helmi, who is the HR director for Kidzania. And I've deliberately not got teachers on my panel, because one of the things that I wanted to plant in your head as you leave, and for you to take away, that everybody is a teacher and everybody has responsibility towards children, and that we, forgive me for being slightly critical at times of our societies globally, we seem to occupy societies now that find it very easy to pass responsibilities onto schools that actually sometimes we should deal with ourselves. Yeah, and we need to redress some of that. So that my grandfather was a Dutch coal miner. I grew up in the south of Holland, and my son is finishing his degree at Oxford University. So over the 3 generations, I stand on a hill and I see social mobility. I see my grandfather there, and I see my son there, and he wouldn't be there without him. And I am the fortunate one who stands on the hill, and I like the vantage point. And the moral high ground is a beautiful vantage point. I am very proud of both of them. Whatever the question, education is always the answer. Archbishop Desmond Tutu told me on his 86th birthday when I sat next to him and we shared a vanilla ice cream. It is one that has stuck greatly, and I wanted to share with you some of the thoughts around education, what we're doing wrong, what we should be doing, and particularly in relation to social mobility. That much overused phrase, social mobility. Social mobility means that tomorrow is better than today, and the day after will be better than tomorrow. And if we aim for that educationally for our children, do you know what? We'll do all right. Social mobility is not 85% of children should go to university. That's not social mobility. That's statistics, and bad ones at that. So, and the source of my thinking comes from my education, not schooling, but my education, and comes from life. I want to draw a distinction in your minds also between education and schooling. We need to be brave enough to actually spell out that education is much more and much broader than schooling. Schooling is 5 days a week, and education is from birth until we move on. I wanted to show you a little video how we change minds. I've got 2 small videos, this one first and then one at the end.
I'm one of the few female pilots. I've been to America, Spain, and I love every news topic. Air traffic control has cleared us for takeoff. Okay, let's go. People, property and postcodes. I call it the 3 Ps. Hello, Mrs. Smith. How can I help you? I have won lots of awards. When I was a school child, I was directing my school play. It's not a job, it's a calling. A Romeo. A Romeo. They see surgery as an art form. It's vital to keep a cool head. Scalpel. I'm a bit of a petrol head. I could have been a doctor, but I prefer cars. What's not to love?
And we're live in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, and welcome to the 9 o'clock news.
Kidzania London, a city made just for kids aged 4 to 14.
Cute, paid for by British Airways out of their marketing budget. I will show you at the end that British Airways have gone on a journey, and that their second video is less cute, but much better. So if you just hang on to that. The greatest challenge we face every day is to do the right thing for every child. Singularly, educationally, the biggest challenge we have. And it is the lottery of inequality from birth that is so hard to apply fairness to, especially in education systems that are obsessed with mass approaches and where there is little room for knowing the individual and what makes them tick. Let me tell you a story about an area called Wythenshawe, next to Manchester Airport. Significant socio-economic disadvantage. I was education director there. I was in charge of 30 schools in the early 2000s. And I went and asked the children at the age of 5 and 6 what jobs they could do at the airport. And the answers I got were the things they could see. Baggage handling, selling newspapers, passport control, those kind of things. So I said to the children, you can fly planes, because you can see them. And they went, people from Wythenshawe don't fly planes. So at the age of 5 or 6, one, they were narrow in terms of their experiences, only what they could see, and the grown-ups around them had already told them what they could and could not aspire to. That makes for a dire education and possibly a limited life. But that's what we're dealing with. Children can only aspire to what they know exists, and it is our collective duty educationally to twitch curtains, open windows and doors and widen horizons. Before we do anything else, we need to show children and let them experience what's out there. And when we do this, we find ourselves in a world where not every classroom has 4 walls, and where the environment becomes the third teacher. It's an interesting one, but I ask this quite often. Should we not collectively draw up a list of experiences out with schools that we believe our children are entitled to by the age of 7 or 11 or 14 or 16? Yeah? Should we not say that every child at the age of 11 should have been to a museum, a gallery, should have been a member of a team, should have won and lost, should have been on social media? At the age of 11, look, to do it anyway. We might as well learn to cope with it. Should they not all visit their capital city? Should they not do much more than just maths and English and science and behave well and turn up on time and complete your homework? If you have a strong purpose in life, you don't have to be pushed. Your passion will drive you there. I ask children all over the world, why do you go to school? And the answer I get far too often is, because I have to. There has to be a better answer than because I have to. We live in a world that is strangely contradictory. On the one hand, ever speedier global access to knowledge, news, events and more, with an increasing need to be able to research, analyse and judge. On the other hand, ever narrowing education curricula and testing, ever greater emphasis on overprotection in the name of health and safety. No wonder our children are confused, mine are. How on earth will they acquire the skills to make informed decisions, take calculated risks and learn from their mistakes? Should we not move to free-range learning, or dare I say it, learning in the wild, and deliberately include risk? if you've never fallen over, how do you know how to get up? We need to think those things through. Without elements of calculated risk, self-confidence is absent. And we will be wondering in years to come why our supply of entrepreneurs, calculated risk takers by definition, has dried up. To quote Henry Ford, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. We must therefore ensure that we measure what we value rather than just value what we measure or what we can measure. Educationally, we seem to believe our own hype, and we're turning our so-called success stories into fake news. We test and publish our findings in league tables. We have come to believe that, to coin a phrase, weighing the pig makes it fatter. We have grown to value what we can measure instead of measuring what we can value. Our education world is Kafkaesque. If you go to the UK and you drive past schools, you will see banners that say outstanding school. There is no outstanding school. In the whole world, there is no outstanding school. There are schools that are outstanding at quite a lot of things, but there is no outstanding school. I think what schools should have in England and other countries, they should take away the outstanding banner and they should put a new banner up that says hope. It's a much better thing to hope than to be outstanding, which we're not.
Can you give me just more explanation about what is written on this slide?
What it does. Can I do that? Can
you give just more?
Right. So what we do is we value what we measure. We can measure maths tests. So therefore, we've learned to make that important. So you get 9 out of 10 in maths. So what? Yeah? But actually, are you confident? I'll come to that in a minute. Can you make decisions? Are you good with other people? The things that are harder to measure, because they're harder to measure, we don't bother. And therefore we begin to define, almost in a Trumpian fake news way, we begin to define what's important based on delusions. Let me tell you about some of the research. It comes to this. The research that we've done at Kidzania globally. So I took 500,000 children all over the world, 4 to 14, and we looked at what their first choice was. So you come to Kidzania, what's the first activity you choose? And then we looked at who are those children? Are they boys? Are they girls? Are they 4? Are they 14? Are they black? Are they white? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they urban? Are they rural? And which country are they from? And then we gave that to analysts and psychologists, and they got underneath this, setting it against individual government statistics. Let me tell you the findings, the key findings. First and foremost, all stereotypes were set at the age of 4. So if you go into the aeroplane in Kidzania, pilot activity, 90% boys, 10% girls. Cabin crew activity, 90% girls, 10% boys. From the age of 4. Everywhere in the world. Then, from 4 to 14, there's almost no change. And this comes back to your question. I then sat down with the then Secretary of State for Education in England, Nicky Morgan, and said, STEM education does not work. And she said, it does because girls perform better in tests than boys. That is not STEM education. That is passing tests. Because when the girls have performed better in tests than the boys, they still revert to stereotype when it comes to choosing career paths. Second finding, more disturbingly for me, almost all girls, almost all girls choose activities below the age range. Confidence. We can't measure it. I was flabbergasted. And then it's really easy. From the age of 4, so we can stop blaming schools, so you're okay. I was flabbergasted, and then I'm on a Sunday morning in a park in Sheffield, and there's a climbing, you know these climbing frames for toddlers, these little playthings, yeah? And I'm having my Costa coffee, and it was nice and sunny for once, and and I'm watching families with toddlers, with children who are 18 months old or so. And every time a little girl goes near the climbing frame, all the grown-ups went, careful, careful, don't hurt yourself. And every time the little boy goes near the climbing frame, all the grown-ups go, what's taking you so long? Come on, get up there. So if that happens from 18 months onwards, what chance when they get to 16? In our education system, of course, think of the stereotypes back to the age of 4. We then wait in most countries for 10 years to engage with those children about what they want to do in the future. Yeah? That just seems to me completely bonkers. It's just mad. And we should engage with, and I'm not advocating careers education in primary schools, incidentally. I'm just advocating opening windows and doors and giving experiences and building them into education. There is irrefutable evidence that children can only aspire to what they know exists. So when they come to Kidzania, they choose from within their experience field. So my wife's school, which is in the north of England, in one of the poorest parts of the country, they have been to Kidzania 20 times. Never, ever, ever has a child chosen pilot, surgeon, television broadcaster, radio broadcaster, or actor as their first activity. In 20 visits. They do choose working in the supermarket, making beds in the hotel, and being a courier. If we don't know that about our children, how can we educate them? How can we personalize their education? We base it on grades and on all sorts of wrong things. Our education system is based on the requirements of the past. Every economic age has its core asset, and in our time this is knowledge, skills, and character qualities. Every year the world of work tells the world of education that what is being produced does not meet the necessary requirements in terms of skills and competencies. Our schooling now does not cater for the requirements of today, let alone tomorrow. We need to learn that in 21st century education, every child is everyone's responsibility. If the world of work wants people fit for purpose, they need to come off the fence and help us do it. Yeah, then we need work experience for 7-year-olds so that they understand how it all functions. And then they can make up their own minds. I don't mind if girls choose to become a hairdresser. I don't care. I care if they don't have choice. It's about choice. It's about facilitating the choice. The key question, therefore, is who are the teachers? And the answer, of course, is all of us. We need to introduce into education and schooling early opportunities to be aware of the world around us and the futures it may hold. Let's call it futures awareness. Experience is everything. For our children to connect with the purpose of schooling and education, we need to provide knowledge and understanding, but how and why? We need to utilize what's available to us and particularly keep thinking not all classrooms have 4 walls. The 10% of girls who participated in the Renault experience in London, changing tyres on a Formula E car, yeah? 90-10 is the statistic at 10 o'clock in the morning. If I change our 2 staff, our supervisors, to females in overalls, the statistic changes to 65-35 in 2 hours. Because what happens to a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old girl? They walk past, they see the woman in an overall, and they clock, I can do this as well. So we need to lead by example, and we need to create those examples and those role models. We are facilitators, and we need to make the connect between schooling, theory, and practice. And we need to broaden that. And this is not a Kidzania advert. This is about museums and galleries and farms and places of work in the broadest possible sense. Yeah? It's also about Kidzania because it's a part of it, but only a piece of a jigsaw. We need awe and wonder, and we need to help children find their roadmaps. Learning is a satellite navigation system to better places in life. Yeah, it's not a bus service. They need to drive themselves. We just need to teach them how to drive. Do you remember that BA advert? It'll come now. Will it? It should come now. There it is.
When I got to my first induction day at my training school, I was the only girl. We have a partnership with Kidzania. Myself and others in the airline do so much to try and make young children, young girls, anyone from different backgrounds realise that this isn't, a pipe dream, this is actually something that they can do. And it just makes them, have a vision of what they could potentially be.
Every child is everyone's responsibility. Do you see how British Airways have changed? And now that advert is paid for out of the HR budget, and it's not paid for out of the marketing budget. And I think it's a better advert, because I think it tells me something that is incredibly important. We need to become the allies of empowerment for our children. We need to make experience-based learning and partnership our modus operandus, purpose our watchword, high standards and a sense of achievement our aim, and our children's well-being and preparedness for tomorrow our promise. We are all teachers. The businesswoman, the bricklayer, the beekeeper, the baseball player, and Mr. Burskins. Mr. Burskins was my favourite teacher. If I hadn't had Mr. Burskins, I would never ever be here now. We all have people like that. We've got to stop leaving that to chance. We all have something to offer. We need to step forward and go, I can show you something. That becomes our duty. And of course my grandfather and my son and my two daughters. I think very importantly, if you walk away with one thing today, stop asking children what they want to be when they grow up. Ask them who they want to be. It's a better question. It invokes more thought and it gives better answers. I'd like to end with two things. One is a quote from OECD's Education Strategy, The Future We Want. Competence is to shape the future. It is about acting rather than to be acted upon, shaping rather than to be shaped, and choosing rather than to accept choices decided by others. The second thing before we go to the panel is I would like to say that I personally, and I honestly believe this, which is why one of the reasons I like being in Qatar and working with people in Qatar, I think that we all have challenges. But I think in many ways that you are better placed than most to do something about those challenges. And I say this genuinely, that as long as you've got brilliant people like the one sitting there, and from a personal perspective, working with WISE has been for me an eye-opener, and I learn every day from these people. So there, thank you. You are well placed, but you must go and ask. You have to go and talk to people. They won't come to you. Get up, do it for the kids. Does that make sense? I'll shut up now, and thank you for listening. And I'm going to ask the panel to join to see whether. Or do you want to stay there? Are you okay staying there? Are you happy there?
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to ask the first question, and then it's your turn. And the first question is really simple. I want to start with you, Amina. Reaction.
Sometimes are not known for different reasons and who work in different contexts, and most of the time very difficult contexts, on kind of introducing the role of play and how important it is to create those kind of environments for children of different backgrounds, different gender, to kind of expose them and create those safe spaces for them to try different things, and through the role of play, find a space where they can test their creativity, their physical limits, if there are limits in the first place, and just ways of looking at things and kind of learning from trial and error and having fun at the same time. Those are important. And then we try to champion as well, the role that we all play in that process. I'm sorry, I've been sick for some time, so I can't raise my voice. But So I think we all play a role in that, and as Ger said, we're all teachers. So whether we're administrators, whether we're teachers in the classrooms, whether we're decision makers and policy makers, But people who are working with NGOs and with people in difficult situations, I think it's our job to create those environments and allow for play beyond limits to be a part of our.
I also think, just to interject, I think it's not just about leadership. I think it's about brave leadership, right? And we all do this in school. I'll give you two really short examples. One is my 13-year-old daughter goes to school, and one of her teachers, her favorite teacher, English teacher, will almost always start the lesson by saying to 20 girls in the class, "What do you think we should talk about today?" That's quite cool, isn't it? It's quite a cool opening, I kind of think. Yeah, that's one thing. Then when my little boy, he was little still, when he went to school, do you remember the Icelandic volcano thing? And there were no airplanes flying for quite a while, isn't it? Now, Tom was into volcanoes like nobody else, right? He loved volcanoes. He was 8 years old. He loved volcanoes. So he ran to school in the morning and he said to his teacher, he said, "Can we please talk about volcanoes today, miss? Can we please talk about volcanoes today?" And the answer he got from his teacher was, "Volcanoes are in the curriculum in October." Take your pick. Yeah, and the brave leader says, "Actually, you're quite right. Of course we're going to talk about volcanoes today. Get your calculators out, get your maths books out, get your English books out. Let's talk about volcanoes today." Does that make sense? And I think that's the bit. Your first reaction?
يمكن احنا في مركز قطر للتطوير المهني نركز على الطلاب في المرحلة الثانوية والمرحلة الاعدادية، وبدينا الحين نبتدي نركز عليهم في السنوات العمرية الأولى. وبما أن أنا تخصص رياض أطفال، فأنا دائما أحبذ أن أتكلم عن التخصص نفسه. أنا بالنسبة لي في قطر صرت ما أواجه هذه المشكلة حاليا. أحس أن احنا ما عندنا مشكلة في أن احنا نعلم الطفل معنى الوظيفة، أو مثل ما قال الأستاذ أن إيش هي الوظيفة. الطفل في قطر وفي الدول العربية والطفل في جميع العالم صار أذكى مما نتصور وأذكى مما نتخيل. صار أذكى منا إحنا باستخدامه لجميع الوسائل الموجودة. هو طفل محظوظ، نقول إحنا مولود وفي يده ملعقة من الذهب. إحنا مع التطور للطفل في هذه المرحلة. الطفل احنا بدينا معاه في برنامج كيدزينيا، احنا متعاونين معاهم، بدينا معاهم في كيدز موندو. بدينا نعرفهم على بعض الاشياء او السكيلز اللي لازم يستخدمها علشان هو يبتدي يتعرف على الوظيفة في المستقبل. لدرجة ان احنا ممكن وصلنا وياه ان احنا نعرفه او تواصلنا معاه ان احنا نعلمه ايش هي الوظيفة، ايش هي المهنة، ايش هي الحرفة. الطفل عندنا صار يبتدي يتعرف على هذا الشيء. فهو بالنسبة لنا احنا طفل محظوظ. الأطفال أهل قطر الحين محظوظين. أنا وايد متحمسة لكيدزينيا، أنا وايد من المؤيدين لكيدزينيا. أنا ما أحس إن عندنا احنا مشكلة الحين طالما إن في عندنا برامج توعوية للطفل. احنا نركز وايد على زيادة الوعي المهني عند الأطفال، نركز وايد على التدريب والتثقيف للطفل، سواء كان من الأسرة أو كان من المدرسة أو كان من الأنشطة والبرامج التعليمية اللي قاعدين نسويها. صار في توسع كبير الحين بالنسبة حق الطفل. صار الطفل من أول ما يدخل عندنا يعرف إيش معنى احنا في كيدزينيا نقدم له CV اللي هي السيرة الذاتية. يبتدي الطفل يتعلم معنا مفردات بسيطة. السيرة الذاتية أصلا هي مش موجودة كانت في المجتمع، مفردة غير موجودة في المجتمع القطري، يمكن الفترة الزمنية طويلة مش موجودة، بس الحين صارت كلمة مألوفة عندنا في المجتمع القطري. في نفس الوقت صارت الكلمات اللي داخل CV مألوفة، إنجازاتك، هواياتك، مهاراتك، أنت وين ستكون في المستقبل، أو أنا شلون أشوف نفسي في المستقبل، ارسم نفسك في المستقبل. هذه الأشياء كلها بدينا فيها، حتى لدرجة أن احنا في رياض الأطفال نبتدي نعطي وحدة كاملة عن اختيار الوظيفة أو المسار المهني الموجود في دولة قطر، وهذه كلها احنا نقتبسها من المجتمع نفسه. فبالنسبة لنا أنا كيدز موندو هو بالنسبة لي مساعد، أو كيدزينيا مساعد حق البرامج اللي احنا نقدمها. صار الطفل عندنا أفضل من قبل، صار هو أصلا سبحان الله في المراحل الابتدائية أو الإعدادية هو عارف هو وين بيكون. إضافة إلى ذلك صار عندنا المدارس التخصصية. من المدارس من الإعدادي أنا عارفة أحدد نفسي أنا وين راح أكون. خلاص أنا بالنسبة لي أعرف وين راح أكون. أنا طالما أن أنا في ثالث إعدادي حددت مساري، حددت أنا وين راح أكون. أنا في الثانوي وفي الجامعة هاي كلها راح يترتب عليه. فإحنا قاعدين نتطور، قاعدين وايد نتقدم. أنا نظرتي وايد إيجابية لكل المواضيع الموجودة. كيدزينيا شيء وايد حلو، شيء إيجابي بالنسبة لنا كمجتمع. الطفل يتعلم من داخل المجتمع، من داخل يمارس المهنة. برامجنا صارت كلها فيها تجربة أداء عملي، تجربة ممارسة عملية، سواء كان لمرحلة الأطفال اللي هي كيدزينيا أو لمرحلة الإعدادي اللي هي المدارس المتخصصة والثانوي، أو سواء للمرحلة الثانوية صار عندنا تجربة ممارسة عملية عن طريق البرامج اللي تقدم في المجتمع، مثل من أمثلتها المخيمات اللي احنا نسويها سواء كان صيفي أو شتوي، الكارير أكاديمي، ماي فيوتشر ماي كارير، نقدم كارير فيليج، كلها فيها ممارسة. الطالب في الثانوية يدخل إلى المجال العلمي، يدخل جو العمل، يبتدي يثير فضوله الأسئلة. الطالب ما عنده أي مشكلة في اختيار وظائفه وفي اختيار مستقبله المهني. فهذه بالنسبة لنا كيدزينيا هي إضافة جيدة للمراحل السنية نقول إحنا السنية الصغيرة.
Because I'm standing on the other side of the hill. I see the outcomes of the education system. The outcomes I see every day in the candidates and people who do the actual job in the adult life. Actually, I was very touched when Professor Gary spoke about the things that we cannot measure, because day-to-day challenges are coming from the lack of knowledge and the lack of awareness about these things, about the things that our education system is not considering. And we need to bravely discuss these things. We need to develop, we need to have assessment tools that will be able to give us measurements and tell us what is the gap and how we can develop it. In adult life, in corporate life, we have people with good education, the business analysis, all the skills that you require, but the human part, the aspirations, the communication, the things that really soft we call it, it's what is really challenging.
One point, and I think the critics quite often say that it's either or. It's either the skills or the grades. It isn't, it's both. And that's the very important bit. But we need to help young people understand that. So 3 girls in Kidzania, London, all 3 11 years old, I'm talking to them and I'm saying, tell me about English in school. And they very quickly tell me that they don't like English in school and they particularly don't like writing. Because it's boring and they always get corrected in red pen and I never get it right and da-da-da-da-da. And all I take home, quote unquote, all I take home is a grade. And then one of them said, and I can't explain 7 out of 10 to my granddad. Good, isn't it? In Kidzania, you make the front page of a newspaper. Yeah? So I then said, what about the front page of the newspaper? And they went, it's brilliant because you do it together, you can correct your mistakes, you can learn from each other, you can put the photographs in, it's real. In other words, it has purpose. And then the other one said, and I can take it home and show it to my granddad. Attainment versus achievement, yeah, and making learning visible. They are not either or, they are both. And we need to kind of bravely do that. Now, any questions from the audience? You don't have to have, don't feel, right? Okay. Shall we use the mic? Brilliant, thank you. It's okay, I'll do it. Thanks. I'll try not to fall over. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I just want to add something.
Yeah?
So I would like to thank Hulul for what she said. And since I'm a kindergarten teacher and I have experience with 4 and 5 years old children, and they are really the best age to start with in education. I really like them. I really agree that we have improvement and the organization rising in Qatar and a lot of things that have changed these years. But I think we still have more to do with differentiating between schooling and education, especially with this early years education. I think children need more to be hands-on learning and more critical thinking, because at this age it's not about papers and pencils and that's I think my opinion, a lot of teachers' opinion, especially at 4 years old, coming from home and they never went to school before, no experiment with real life. So we need to let them see more, know more, and then let them decide what they want to learn, since they are coming with no experiment at all. And that's it. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I'd like to just add a question, two things. I'd like to add a question to that, and that's to do with parents and families, and that's to do with education versus schooling. We can't do this alone. You can't do this alone either. So how do we get parents, families, communities better involved? Has anybody got any? I don't know that. If anybody's got the answer, can you tell me quietly? Yeah. But if you wanted to share it with everybody, and I think the other thing that I would like to add as I walk over there is this, and you're making a very valid point. Nobody's got the answers, right? But we can.
Raising awareness.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
some parents they think it's not important
Yeah.
to. It's just kindergarten.
Yeah.
They don't know it's the basis for like. Grade 1, grade 2,
Yeah.
and even high school.
I agree entirely.
An early age to raise the confidence in.
Because the exam is a long time away, isn't it? That's the kind of mentality, isn't it? But I think the mentality also is, and we're to blame in this to a degree, is we sit back and wait for things to happen. So I'm going to say to you now, as I say all over the world, Kidzania is not perfect. It's quite good, but it's not perfect. It will be nearer perfect if you come and tell us what else we should do. So please don't stay quiet. Sorry.
About parent, I work with parent. I'm a psychologist. I work with parent. I think parents need now more of training about future and what learning and what job their children will have, because we can't ask children to study and prepare themselves for the future after 20 years or after 25 years as we are now, because things is develop very quickly. So the parents in the school, the parents in the university, they have to be involved and have some workshop and small training about their children in the future. That's what I think.
Do you want to come back in on that?
And I have another question that tell you that when I visit Kidzania for more times, maybe 2 or 3 times, I found Kidzania, it's a very good place to learn children with disabilities.
Yeah.
To use it as a place to train children with disabilities.
I agree.
To have a job in the future, and how to roll up this work, and it can help those children in reading and writing and having CV and be responsible for things. It's a word really I like it for those children. And thank you.
Thank you. I think that's very important. I'm very proud of that you say this. It's the hardest thing we do, and as I said there, it's about doing the right thing for every child. It's not easy, but we would never be accused of not trying. the parent thing is interesting, and I think thank you ever so much, because it's certainly put some thoughts in my mind, whether we can't do it on our own, but maybe we can do some of it together, and maybe we can do some of it together, whereby whilst the children are being firefighters and pilots, maybe we should have workshops for parents in Kidzania who are with the children and get real pilots coming to try. I don't know, I'm making this up, but it seems, does some of that make sense? I'm going to ask you two now to...
After Khulud, I have a comment.
Okay.
Also, we can teach in Kidzania some of children that they have some of behavior in a plane, that they don't sit, they can't sit, and they can't wait until they reach the whole trouble. It will be, they have very bad behavior. We can teach them through.
I'm going to stop you now, and I'll tell you what. Yeah, there are no children with bad behaviour.
No, not
there are only grown-ups who teach the children to behave. No, jokingly, right? Two things. One of the things that I always say, my favourite book is The Little Prince. Yeah. If you haven't read it, read it. Yeah. My favourite quote is, "All grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it." That's the first thing. Yeah. And then the other thing is, all over the world, 27 Kidzania soon, 73 million children. We have never had to exclude a child. We've had to exclude parents. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. I think it's right, because those things are also skills, and those things, and it is about
we can teach lots of skills through Kidzania.
But by example, it is like if you go to my wife's school, every child will say thank you, and every child will open the door for other people. The reason they do that is because it's been modelled. Yeah. And that's an easy. Sorry, you were going to. No, please do.
أول شيء بالنسبة حق الوركشوب الخاصة بأولياء الأمور، ترى في وايد وركشوب موجودة في وايد أماكن تقدم حق أولياء الأمور، ويمكن لو أوضح لك أكثر عنوانها كيف أقرب وجهات النظر بين أولياء الأمور وأبنائهم، ويقدمها مركزنا ويقدمها كذا مركز وخاصة في المدارس، وندعو فيها أولياء الأمور. للأسف الشديد اللي قاعد يصير عندنا إن أولياء الأمور هم اللي ما يروحون، يعني المجتمع أصلاً مثقف من هذه الناحية وعنده الوعي إن في ورش وفي الجهات كلها قاعدة تعطي هذه الورش، لكن للأسف المجتمع الأفراد اللي موجودين ما عندهم قابلية إنهم يحضرون هذه الورش، وهي ما تتعدى ساعتين. وإحنا سوينا هذه الورشة في التوجيه المعنوي لطلاب الخدمة الوطنية، وصارت ما شاء الله صار عندنا تقريبا 400 شخص حاضر من أولياء الأمور، وصار فيها تقريب لوجهات النظر بين أولياء الأمور. الولد يبغي وأنا أبي والأم تبي والمجتمع يبغي، فصار في تقريب. أنا شلون أقرب وجهات النظر بين أولياء الأمور وبين الطلاب وبين الشخص نفسه ورغباته. للأسف الشديد إحنا قاعدين نقول المجتمع أو نظرة المجتمع تبي، وأنا ولدي لازم يكون مدير، ولازم يتنصب المنصب الفلاني، ولازم يكون هذه وجهة نظر الوالد، لكن وجهة نظر المجتمع يقول أنا لازم يكون عندي طريق أو إحنا نسميه اللي هو التسلسل الوظيفي. أنا يكون عندي تخصص فعلا، أنا لازم أشوف رغبات المجتمع. مثل ما قلت لك المدارس التخصصية وضحت لنا ايش الدولة تحتاج في السنوات الجديدة. كون في مدرسة علوم وتكنولوجيا ثنتين، واحدة تابعة لقطر فونديشن والثانية تابعة للحكومة، معناته ان قطر تحتاج في المستقبل إلى أشياء فيها علوم وتكنولوجيا. موجود جامعة أو مدرسة اللي هي التخصصية الطبية ديباك، اللي هي معناته أنا محتاجة ليه الطب. موجود قطر المصرفية، معناته أنا محتاجة إلى المصرف ومحتاجة إلى المعاملات والبزنس. فهذه تحدد لي رؤية قطر في المستقبل إيش تحتاجه. إحنا ما كل اللي علينا كأولياء أمور كأم وكأب إن أنا فقط أوجههم إلى الموجود من غير ما أفرض رأيي عليهم. ولازم ما نضع صح حلو الطموح وحلو الثقة وحلو كل حاجة في النفس، بس ما اعطيه اقول له انت لازم تدخل هالتخصص لانك راح تصير دكتور او راح تصير مدير، لانه ممكن ما ينصدم في المجتمع، ممكن بعد فتره من الزمن ما يلاقي هو هذا المنصب، او في ناس تستحق ان هي تاخذ هذا المنصب. فبالنسبه للورش، الورش موجوده، يعني انا يمكن نظرتي وايد ايجابيه حق الامور في كل شيء. بس احنا محتاجين اكثر، احنا محتاجين من اولياء الامور انهم يكونون اكثر وعي. مثل ما قلت لك تجربتنا، احنا عندنا تجربه صارت في كيدز مونتو والحين بنكررها في كيدز زينيا. تجربتنا ان انا ادخل مفاهيم جديده على الطفل في هذه السن المبكره، واعلمه انه يسوي سيره ذاتيه ويبتدي يفكر من يوم هو صغير شنو هوايه وشنو طموح وشنو مهنه وشنو وظيفه، معناته ان هذه شيء جديد في المجتمع وراح ان شاء الله يبتدي يتطور. كذلك حتى في كيدز زينيا يعني احنا معاهم ان شاء الله بنكون في المستقبل، وان شاء الله على تم الاستعداد، واحنا اصلا طارحين انه يكون في ورش بعد تدريبيه حق اولياء الامور في هاي المكان، على اساس ان الطفل يلعب في نفس الوقت، العائله تبتدي تدخل على الورش التدريبيه وتتثقف من الناحيه المهنيه.
Can I give a comment?
Okay, cool.
Number one, communities for a long time suffered from the big gap between life learning and school learning. And I think what Mrs. Floyd mentioned, certain practices can bridge this gap, like what we mentioned. Number two, there is in America what's called Brain Awakeness Week. If we can push something like that through camps, through Kidzania or whatever, our community, I think it will. It may take time, but it will put some effort.
بس شوف بالنسبه حق البرامج اللي تقدم، هي الحين صارت دائما تركز على المهن. في عندنا يمكن مثل ما قلت شوي جاب في بعض الامور، لكن كل الجهات اللي موجوده في قطر وكل الوزارات من تجربه شخصيه صارت لي مع المركز، كلها بالفعل هي تطمح انه يصير ثقافه مهنيه، يصير في ترسيخ لها، يصير في وعي مهني. فكل الجهات في دولة قطر بدأت تتغير. قلت لك أنا نظرتي وايد إيجابية حق المواضيع، فما أحب أتكلم عن السلبيات.
Thank you. I have a couple of reactions for you, Khulud, and then the lady who spoke earlier. I think yes, we have come a long way as a nation, and I know that there are a lot of efforts, positioned within different places within the community, whether Ministry of Education, having great organizations coming on board to offer learning experiences, the work that you do. But I think, as an educator and as a parent as well, I'm very positive, but I'm also very realistic. And I think the current situation that we're living in right now, we're still, preparing kids for professions. And I think that's something that our education system suffers from, and we continue to put kids in boxes. Are you within the scientific stream? Are you within this stream? And you know what? I'm in my early 40s, and I still am exploring different things, and I'm passionate about different things. I'm an educator, I love musician, I have a lot of creativity. I always wanted to be a painter as well, so I can be so many different things at the same time. And I think that's very important for our kids, and like within your outlet where people can, with the little kids can explore different things, is very important because we forget that. And I know it sounds, I don't know if other parents in the room would resonate with this, but as a child I was a Mary Poppins fan, and I know they released the new version of the movie. I don't know if you're aware of Mary the nanny who comes to help the kids. But I sat there with my daughter, and then it just really brought back a lot of childhood memories, and this is what we forget. We forget that we are kids. And it's important to remind ourselves, especially as educators, because yes, everyone else within the community, it's an ecosystem that supports the children to become who they are. It's not only us, but also as educators in the classroom, we should not forget how it felt to be a child. When we give instructions, or when we model, or when we put certain metrics that examine our children's achievements, we should not forget that we were in that position one place. And I think I understand, I'm a person who was part of the reform that was introduced here in Qatar through RAND, the whole charter school, the independent school system, and all of that. And I've seen that we tried to create more well-rounded experiences for the children so that, we prepare them for life instead of preparing them for jobs. And yes, we want to promote the notion of lifelong learning because we always continue to learn regardless of how old we are and what we do. But I still feel with the career even advising efforts that weren't there before, you're right. I mean, so many different things in my lifetime have been introduced here in Qatar for children, but I still feel we struggle in terms of trying to match people with jobs, and then there are a lot of kind of expectations within the community. I mean, I love the whole discussion around STEM and STEAM. We always forget to say STEAM. Okay, what about liberal arts education? I mean, wouldn't we argue with the technology and what things are heading for? There is more space for people to go back to their values and to go back to liberal arts and to become more thinkers. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of jobs will be automated as well, right? And so, the one thing that we are missing here in the Qatar scene, which is something that I'm really passionate about, kind of the value of liberal arts education.
Yeah.
We want to bring back. I don't want us to have only engineers and doctors and lawyers, or kind of raise our kids to aim for well-paid jobs, because all jobs are important, and that's something else.
I think I'd like to add a couple of sentences to that. Really importantly, if you've ever taken a group of children on a trip, you always have to look around that somebody doesn't get left behind. We have to look out that somebody doesn't get left behind. And I have a great worry. I'm very enthusiastic about technology and the internet, and I have a great worry about technology and the internet, and not about the safety, because we'll solve that one day. That's not the problem. But the problem is going to be that the internet in particular is either going to be the greatest democratizing power ever, or the thing that leaves lots of people behind. And we just need to be mindful, and it's that empathy element, putting us in the shoes of the child, not forgetting what it is like to be the child. We need to constantly, acutely be aware, and like we're taking children on a journey, we always need to make sure that there's somebody left behind. I just need to go and get them and bring them back with the rest of the group. Because sometimes our enthusiasm runs away with us, and that's a good thing. But we need to remember that we've got kids that we need to stay. You wanted to ask a question. Do you want to see the mic?
When it comes to,
sorry,
yes,
there we are.
No. When it comes to change, I don't know, but this is my opinion. It's like for adults, it's a little bit, I'm not going to say difficult to change, but it's not going to be easy.
No.
But for the children, for the young learners, yeah, it's going to be easier. Because, I don't know how, we have to be very careful about, the life vision that we are transferring for them.
Yeah.
Because they are going to have it from us. And then they are going to carry it. But here we have to be very careful about, also when we are talking about change, we have also to consider teachers and parents.
Yes.
That's it. But for learners, they still not accumulate, much.
One, change is difficult, which I think is a good thing, because if change were easy, there would be too much of it. Yeah. Secondly, I think change is an interest. So I've got two daughters. One is 13, one is 23. 10 years. It's all there is. 10 years. The single most important event that happened historically in their lives was that in July 2009, the iPhone 3G was launched. So I have one child who was born virtually with the iPhone 3G, the little one, and I have one who was 13 when the iPhone 3G came along. And you talk about change in generation, a 10-year generation, where a 23-year-old texts a 13-year-old and says, how do I do that on my phone? The 13-year-old has become the teacher. The 23-year-old has become the learner. We are living in a world that is going upside down. The biggest problem we've got, I'm a teacher, I will always be a teacher. I'm quite a good teacher. I'm useless with technology. So I would need to pay my 13-year-olds to help me with, and maybe in the school of the future, we will pay children to help old teachers turn on things. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to think. So change requires painting outside the frame. And maybe we need to just paint outside the frame to cope with it.
Share, you know, this story. It happens in front of me. It's like I was in one of the class, 6th grader, boys, and you know, one of the boys like sitting in the back, and you know, the teacher, she is like having like a hard time with them, like sitting them down, listen to her. She was actually, you know, delivering, I think, math or something like that. But it's like he shouted and say, "Miss, why you are bothering you in delivering all of these? I already have money in my account, I already have a car, and why am I going to listen to you?" But here, you know, the reason behind why they have to study, though they have everything. But the idea of the view of life, in what way they are viewing the life. It's like at the end of the road you are going to have a job with a salary, with a position, or it's like different.
But we need to widen. It still remains the same. We just need to perhaps open a different window and a different door. Bring me that boy, and I'll sit down, and I'll sit. No, serious. And I'll sit down with the boy, and I'll show him somebody playing a piano. And I will inspire him that he wants to play the piano like that. There are, and this is, I keep going back to my experiences. You take children and you show them. In England, we have an inspection regime called Ofsted. It's very boring. It's very dull. But in the early days, it had something quite interesting in it. You could. 1 is the highest grade. So if I come and see your lesson, the highest grade I can give you is 1. But in order to, in the original framework of many years ago, in order to get a grade 1 as a teacher, there had to be evidence of awe and wonder in the lesson. The child who listens to the piano for the first time, their eyes go bigger, their mouth drops. And there is your evidence of awe and wonder. And you know why they got rid of awe and wonder? Because you can't measure it. And I used to turn around and say, I can take the photograph. I can show you the eyes of the child. That's a measurement as well. And I think there are, and that goes to Amina's point, the breadth of education versus schooling. Use the internet. I went to something called The Void. The Void is a kind of virtual reality experience. It is insane. I was Anakin Skywalker. I fought with Darth Vader. But at the same time, I turned around to Andrew Darrow, one of the guys who was behind it, and said, does that mean I can take 30 children into a field and they can paint next to Van Gogh? And he said, yes. So we can inspire. With some children, we just have to try harder to inspire them.
Really interesting, you know, ideas we are sharing here. But at the end, we are going to remember that an exit level needed.
Yeah.
But then any human being is gonna, you know, perceive it in a
But I would say, and I would say it anywhere, and I would say it publicly, the exit levels that we're looking at now are fake news, because we're testing. My daughter, when she was 11, did her SATs in England. They practiced for 6 months. She didn't have more knowledge. She didn't know how to apply the knowledge. She'd done all the past papers. And she knew roughly what questions would come up. If we're serious about education, we need to get the children to pass the test in a real sense. So we can make that case. We have to make that together. Parents, educators, kindergarten teachers, all of us. I'm very happy that we've run over, because it means that you haven't been bored. And Dora remains my favourite. Please come and see us after next week. Come and talk to us. Come and tell us what we should do. Come and tell us what we should do differently. Talk to Rick, talk to Reda, ring us up, send us emails. We can only be as brilliant as you make us. Yeah, and there should be no activity in any Kidzania in the world that isn't touched by children and teachers in its creation. Yeah. So please come and help us. And if you want to talk and have a coffee and have a chat and whatever, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to my friends, as always. It's lovely to have you here. Thanks ever so much.
Excuse me. I would like to invite Mr. Khalid from the Ministry of Education to please hand over the certificate to Dr. Gregos.
Thank you very much. It was very, very interesting workshop, I think. Very grabbing and very engaging. And we have to show you first.
Yeah. Whoa.